Ladies and gentlemen, at this time it is my honor to introduce North Carolina Representative David Lewis. We do not have a better friend in the North Carolina General Assembly than the representative from Harnett County. David Lewis is currently serving his 8th term in the North Carolina House of Representatives. I think when he was first elected, he was probably the youngest representative ever elected. He represents Harnett County, as I said. In 2015, North Carolina House Speaker Tim Moore appointed Lewis to serve as chairman of the House Rules Committee. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's an important committee. That means he is the representative, he is the member of the House who controls the flow of legislation through the House. If Representative Lewis says this bill moves, it moves. If he says it doesn't go, somehow it just gets hung up in somebody's pocket. And we know this. We've been on the good and the bad side of that. On several occasions, he has been instrumental in helping us move Farm Bureau-supported legislation through his chamber. When David Lewis is not working in the legislative building, he manages his family farm in Dunn. I've been on that farm. It is a great working farm. Ladies and gentlemen, we are fortunate. We're fortunate at Farm Bureau, and it is invaluable for us as an organization to have a friend like David Lewis. Let's welcome Representative David Lewis. David.
Good morning. It is a pleasure to stand before you. I will start out by reminding what many of you may know. For 20 years, I was in the retail John Deere business, and I can recall a story. One July, I had just began my career with John Deere, and I was out trying to sell a lawnmower to this gentleman, and I wanted him to know how smart I was. And I was telling him everything that he could possibly ever want to know about this lawnmower. I was telling him about the turning radius, and I was telling him about the thickness of the deck, and I was telling him about the blade speed, and I was telling him about the hydrostatic transmission. Except it was hot, and it was uncomfortable, and he kept swatting these gnats. I stopped and said, "Sir, I apologize for these gnats." Well, the old gentleman looked at me and he said, "Well, son, you can't help that, but just so you know, those aren't gnats." And I said, "Oh, well, what are they?" He said, "Well, those are called tsetse flies." I said, "Really? I had never heard of a tsetse fly." He said, "Oh, those are the flies that fly around a horse's rear end." So I go back to talking about the lawnmower and the seat on it and finally I just paused and I said, "Excuse me, sir, did you just call me a horse's rear end?" He said, "No, son, I'd never do that, but you can't fool the flies." That is exactly how I feel standing before all of you this morning. Thank you, Mr. President, for the honor and the privilege that you have given me to stand here today. I want to begin by saying thank you for all the work that you do. The North Carolina Farm Bureau, through its members, does fantastic work by supporting North Carolina's robust agricultural industry and by being a voice for farmers. The educational programs, the grassroots work, the advocacy work that you do is all so important, and I cannot thank you enough for that. As many of you know, and as our good president just said, I do farm, and I understand that it is our duty to protect our natural resources and to carefully balance the needs of our environment and the needs of growing enterprise. I understand that we must carefully cultivate them so that future generations can reap the benefit of these great resources. Agricultural operations are some of the greatest economic drivers we have. They create jobs all over, especially in those communities that need it the most. Agriculture is the backbone of our state. Although there are many to choose from, there are just a few subjects that I'd like to share with you this morning. First, I was proud that the state enacted into law, with the support of the Farm Bureau, what was originally called House Bill 467, the Agriculture and Nuisance Remedies Act. This bill became law. It limits the amount of damages that may be awarded in private nuisance action against an agriculture or forestry operation to the fair market or rental value of the plaintiff's property. This was done in response, of course, to those that would seek to exploit situations, and it makes sure that interest on both sides, both the farmer, producer, and those that may feel they were harmed, are fairly protected. I'm also very proud to have been to been a primary sponsor of House Bill 3, which is the eminent domain bill. This bill has passed the House and is currently in the Senate. We do expect action on it. The intent of this bill is to protect landowners and provide more options in the case where property is taken via eminent domain. Again, this is a common sense protection for landowners and private property. We must continue to safeguard this core liberty. We have taken several other actions focused on North Carolina agriculture. While we know that many of our farms are small family businesses, we also know that many are large, and the responsibilities, the burdens that they bear have got to be balanced. We have worked hard to reduce unnecessary administrative burdens on our farmers. These changes allow our farmers, allow our producers to get back to doing what they do best, which is growing our nation's food and fiber. There's just a few points that I want to make with you this morning because I think it's important. We're so blessed to live in this great state. Many people across the nation want to live in this great state with us. Between the census of 2011 and that will be announced in 2021, our state is expected to add more than 1 million people to our population of already over 10 million. Here's the important part. Of that 1,990,000 of them are going to be moving into one of about 15 counties. The population growth in our state continues to be toward our urban centers, which means the voices of those of us in the rural areas who are concerned about issues need to be more focused than ever before on making sure that we are heard. Your participation in Farm Bureau, but also the works that you do back home, all the boards that you're on, all of the volunteer hours that you do, those things matter. And I want you to know that they're going to matter even more every day that our state grows. I also, and I say this with great trepidation, as the president said, I used to be young, but I encourage all of you to look around and to notice the demographics that are in this room. Those of you who have taken time to give your time to be here today, I encourage you to expand your reach. We need more faces in this room. We need younger faces in this room. That may not be a very popular thing to say, but I tell you, I spend a lot of time on the road, and I'm very concerned. You would go to the Kiwanis Club or the Rotary Club, and the room would be filled with folks. Now, you go to the town and you find out that the Kiwanis Club has shut down, that the Lions Club no longer meets because there's a lack of willingness to have community and civic engagement. I'm very concerned about that. We've got to find a way to let folks know that what they invest in themselves and their communities comes back multifold. I would like to echo one of the things that our good president here said. When we talk about goals for the future, we have got to continue to invest in infrastructure. And that's a real fancy word that folks like to throw around, but I can tell you what it means to me. Yes, we got to continue to build roads. We also have to find a way to replace and enhance the water and sewer lines that are all across our state. But by God, at some point, we've got to get to the point where you can get a cell phone signal in Sampson County. There's got to be a way that we can expand rural broadband access. I mean, I can tell you, we put our tractors in the field, and they steer themselves based on satellites, but we have to buy two-way radios because we can't use cell phones. And that lack of communication, which affects not just those of us in the rural area, but also, frankly, affects a lot of the urban poor, has got to be put on the list. I'm telling you, information is the new infrastructure that must be in place for any organization, any state, any community to grow. Those are the kinds of things that, with your help, with partnering with the Farm Bureau and any and all other organizations that are willing to invest in and help us expand access to information, that is the way that we're going to all move forward together. I'm going to close now by simply restating that I support your mission, I support your work. Sustainable resource management and agricultural growth are major opportunities that I see in driving our state forward. Job creation, conservation, prosperity. That is what I feel Farm Bureau stands for. That is what I stand for. Thank you for the chance to be here today. Good luck rest of your convention.